Good morning. Quick note, I just want to remind myself and who's ever watching this that in my introduction video, I looked up what a memoir was and I've been studying and all this and that. And since this is visual, in addition to the book that's forthcoming, it's being compiled. Anyway, uh, I just want to say that the memoir is not really about me, although my life is, part of it. What the saying is, and I really love this, is this, a memoir is not about me. It's about something, and I'm just an illustration of that something. Now, whether that's an illustration to some people from the baby boomer generation, that what, the music was like in the culture, or maybe it's an illustration of, our society at large, or maybe it's just an illustration to broken women out there, and maybe it's an illustration to their kids that are healing from that process. Whatever that is, my life is not singular. What happened to me during the span of these years happened to many of us, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I want to tell my story and expose, like, the events that shaped me, and perhaps to give hope and then open hearts to change, even if they're old hearts, like really old hearts that's been holding a grudge for 37 years and 3 months, whatever it might be. So I just want to keep that in context because, if people are enjoying this and they think, oh, Diane's like, think she's, who does she think she is? And why that's a concern to me is because when I was younger, I used to get squashed a lot. And yeah, I was boisterous and outspoken and like raw. I didn't know what to say, the social norms. There was a time when I said, Mom, what, that lady's pregnant. And my mom slapped me. I was like clueless. You don't say pregnant and you don't burst out with it. So that's the kind of kid I was. But now, what I want to say is being crushed all the time took me many years to work through and figure out, I'm not just trying to get attention. This is part of my skill. At work, they make you take these tests and they say, what's your superpower? And I figured out my superpower is reaching people. When just recently, a few months ago, I told my story to a very large crowd. I don't, maybe I want to say 200, maybe, give or take. And I've done speaking engagements before, and there's a certain humility you have to approach it with. And the other part of that is, what are people going to think? Well, you have to let go of that. Because and the big thing I had to let go of is that my mom was saying, you're just trying to get attention. No, and really, the truth is, I'm really good at this. And when I sit across from somebody and I tell them my truth with no bars on it, no filters, no anything, something happens. And that's something I was born with. I did that even in high school, and I'm not going to squash it. I'm just not going to squash it. And I believe I'm actually called to reach people and love on them and help them find their better self. That was the work I did in workforce development and working with my sponsees. That's what I'm good at. This is my superpower. I'm not trying to show off. So now that we got that out of the way, all right, we will move on. I'm not showing off. I'm just telling the story and I'm having some fun and I'm hoping it touches hearts. And my mother in heaven can't squash me. I don't think she would right now. She learned a lot through her course of events. All right, so when I was little, we lived in Garfield for a period of time right after my mom and dad got back together. And my dad and mom were both working at the same coat factory in Passaic, which was right across the bridge. And the bridge was literally, you could almost see it from our backyard. So my mom and dad would go outside, go to the corner, catch the bus, which was like 15 cents, I'm guessing. I'm pretty sure it was in that range. And they would go back and forth to work. However, they had it set up so that one worked in the morning and one worked in the night. My dad worked days and my mom worked the night shift. And that's just what they decided. So my dad would get me and bring me to the babysitter when he got off the bus. And my mom had already left, so they kind of missed each other in passing. No big deal. Lots of families do it nowadays. And, they left me at a babysitter's. So the really cool part of this story is that the babysitter lived across the street and like down the street, and they lived upstairs. So I could look down and see when the bus was coming. And it was not the most comfortable babysitting situation. I was only there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And the woman was making dinner and everything else. And I would leave just before they ate. So she, it was that busy time of night. I would be in the living room, standing on the couch, got hollered at for standing on the couch. But I could see better out the window. And, my dad was coming to get me. I was all excited. Well, one evening, my dad didn't come. Like it was, and I kept looking out the window. And this family was very close. They were, I believe they moved here from Poland. I'm not sure. I was Poland or Czechoslovakia or one of them. Very strong accent, very private to themselves. And not to be say anything mean about the family, but they were anxious for me to go so they could all sit down and have their dinner. That was kind of their thing. And when she came to the window, she looked out the window, she saw that he wasn't on that bus, and she kind of said, sit down, you wait. Okay, all right, what do I know? I'm not, I'm fidgety, I'm a little kid, I'm up and down looking. She goes, she goes in the kitchen, and she tells her own children, sit down, they're gonna start. Oh, any minute now, Diane, you go downstairs, wait on stoop, he be here. Okay, so I go downstairs, and I'm just sitting there, I don't know, 8 or 9 steps, cement steps. And there's a culture on the East Coast during that time period of the stoop, the porch steps, because people would sit outside and greet each other. There was no air conditioning in the summer, yada yada. The stoop was the hangout. Anyway, so I'm sitting on the stoop and I'm waiting. Now, my rule when we were playing outside at night was always go home by the time the street lights come on. That was kind of like our rule. Well, the street lights come on, and I'm like, what should I do, so I'm sitting there waiting, and I think, well, I'm gonna look down the street and look on my porch because I can see my house from there. And nobody's looking, so I'm a stinker. I'm telling you, disobedience runs thick here. So I cross the street and I go down to my porch because my dad's coming. What's the difference if I'm on their stoop or I'm on my stoop, right? So then the boys upstairs are coming down. Where's your father? I don't know. And one of the kids was kind of a little nasty brat, and he goes, "Oh, he's probably in the bar. That's what my dad said." And I'm like, "What?" Like, okay, I'm just giving you a picture of my childhood, okay? So I'm waiting, and they get called up to go to for their dinner. Now it's like almost darky dark. What's that mean? I don't know. It's about 2 hours past sunset, darky dark. Anyway, so I'm like playing, being really mindless. I'm standing, then I'm like going up and down the street looking, and nobody's like aware of my existence. I could have got snatched. And I'm like, I got that feeling like I want to go to my Graham's house again. I always want to go to Graham's house. And of course, there's no cell phones. I mean, nowadays you just go, where that you'd call. But, I had no conception of time, and it's getting darker and later. And then I sit on the porch. Now I'm scared because it's like, it's that time of night when, you could hear the crickets, and, you can start to see the moon. No, I like, I'm a little kid. Granted, I'm a little bit, precocious at times, but still no dad. I start like crying a little. The kids come phone, they're done with their dinner and they come downstairs and they're kind of you think they take me upstairs, right? No. They just leave me there. And so I'm like, maybe I should go back over to the babysitter's house and knock on the door. But she's kind of cranky. I'm kind of scared of this babysitter. I mean, she never hit me or not, but she's kind of like, "Arr," and you know what I mean? Where's my dad? And I'm like, now I'm confused and I'm lost, and like things are just really not coming together. So then I really start crying. Now I'm wandering up and down the street. The babysitter, like, mind you, she's across the street and down the block. She looks out and she sees me. She comes down and she says, "What you doing? What you doing? Where's your dad?" She's kind of scolding me, but at the same time, she's being a little motherly, which is good. She drags me by the arm. Her kids are already in bed, and she brings me upstairs and sits me down. She calls my mom at the factory. Now, my mom, like, I don't know what she said, but it seemed like she was there, like, in a blink of an eye. You know what I mean? And I guess some guy at work, her supervisor, somebody gave her a ride in a car. We did not have a car, we had buses. Anyway, so she comes and gets me, and instead of walking toward the house, because I don't know, she's got something in mind, she walks up towards the corner. Now, on the corner, there's this huge bar. Okay, I'm like, I'm starting to get the picture here. And so you walk in, oh, it stinks. You know that bar room smell? Like it's permeated the furniture and the coat rack. Well, there's a little vestibule where you step in and you can put your umbrellas and, whatever in a coat rack. And so she stands me right there. She tells me, don't move. And she goes plowing into the bar. And sure enough, there's my dad, and he's standing with a pool cue in his hand, and he's got a big old cowboy hat on his head. And now in the back of this bar, you need to understand it's really nice. The front of it's just like a regular old bar, but in the back's a performance area. And they apparently had the band was on a break, but it was some fancy country star. I want to say Tex Ritter, but don't quote me on that. But there was somebody famous, okay, was in Garfield, New Jersey, and my dad just had to see him. And that was all that was on his mind when the bus came. And apparently, I didn't see him get off the bus. Maybe he took an earlier bus. Maybe he got a ride. We don't know. It's a mystery. Okay, so my mom's like screaming at him, and all the guys in the bar are like, "Gene, you're gonna take that shit." You know how the macho freaking idiot men back in the day. Okay, and I'm sorry if I said the shit. I'm sorry if little kids are listening. So they're in it. Now you got to picture this. My mom's about yo tall, like 4'11", and she was tiny. Okay, tiny dot. And my dad, 5'9", 5'10", something in there. But he's burly. No, not as burly as he got, but he was a big man. And my mom's like, and she's like, Gene, where's your daughter? Where's your daughter? And he's like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, a light bulb just shines above his head, cartoon style. I'm watching this. I don't know what's going on. I kind of have a hint. We went through the Chinese restaurant thing. They made up. I'm kind of like, uh-oh, there's that smell again. I know that smell, okay? And like, she's upset. She's crying. He's trying to lie his butt off. And it's like, well, where's my daughter? All of a sudden, he turns it around on her. Like, whoa. Where's my daughter? What did you do with her? Like, this little deflection game. And I've seen it many times since. And all of a sudden now my mom's afraid. She's right there. Well, I had moved over and they couldn't really see me because the coat hanger was there. And it was just like a little juxtaposition thing right there. Is that the right word? Juxtaposition. Cool word. SAT word. Anyway, um, he starts hollering at her and she's freaking out. And I just step out. Hi, Daddy. Oh, my little pumpkin. He comes running over and picks me up, and all the guys in the bar are like, oh, look at the cute little girl, blah, blah, blah. And he takes his cowboy hat off, and this is the part you have to remember for the future. He takes his cowboy hat off, and he puts it on me, and now I feel like I'm the queen. And the whole drama of anxious and being outside and that whole thing immediately was dissipated. It wasn't there. My dad gave me a hat, and all these men are clapping and laughing, and there's my mom. She seems like she's disjointed from the whole situation. Now she feels like the bad guy. And this repeated over and over again throughout my childhood, where my dad would do something wrong, and then my mom wound up feeling like the bad guy because she's trying to keep order in the house. So that was the end of that. And the reason I told that story is because I know a lot of people, even currently, that live in not so great family situations. And here's the deal, I got through it. Did I have a lot of detours along the way? Absolutely. But because I connected with that, okay, and I'm not going to name it because everybody's going to get up in an uproar, blah blah blah. So that's because that's not what this is about. What it is about is that childhood wounds can be survived. And craziness can be survived. And I know I'm not the only one that survived it. I'm the only one. I'm not the only one that has kids that have kids that are working on surviving things. And so that's my message in this one, is that you can survive crazy coat factory events. All right, that's enough. And how we got 14 minutes. I'm always trying to keep them under 15, but some of them go over. All right. Good night and God bless. That's Fred Skilton.